Since I was a young boy, I began to visit the ranches and farms in Venezuela, and Jaguar is talked about as El Tigre, as a mythological beast, you know. It's not one tiger, it's El Tigre, with a lot of aura of mystery and very strange history about the animal. So you grow up hearing about these fabulous animals that you never see.
When there's one nearby, it almost feels like you can feel the forest get silent. It seems like the birds, the mammals, any movement holds completely still because they know that something else is there.
Solitary and elusive, jaguars are the largest wild cat in the Americas. They once ranged from the southern United States through to central Argentina. Today, they only occupy about 50% of their historic territory.
Jaguars are very efficient killers. They are able to move in forested areas even with these dry leaves without making any noise. Their feet, they have a pad, and the fingers distribute their weight very well.
Jaguars are sneaky, but they're not impossible to find. For decades, hunters killed them for their fur. Jaguars are now listed as near threatened, but they face another danger: the destruction and shrinking of the ecosystems they call home.
Without a sufficient prey base, without a sufficient amount of cover or protection, security for the jaguars to hide and hunt their prey, then the jaguar cannot stay in that area.
In the 1960s and early 70s, jaguars were hunted mercilessly for their fur. As many as 18,000 were killed each year.
The massacre of jaguars was general, and that implied that only the very shy and very alert jaguars survived that massacre. They are respectful of man the way you are respectful of them. There is an old saying in the Pantanal that a onza nunca te va a ofender, a onza solo va a defender. The jaguar is never going to offend you. He's only going to defend himself.
Today, the jaguar pelt trade is illegal, but their parts can still be found on the black market. Experts are increasingly worried about the trafficking of jaguar fangs from South America to China. Biologist Ricardo Buliosa has seen images of dead jaguars pop up on social media.
Antigamente, como tinha esse hábito de apresentar cabeça, patas de onça como troféus na fazenda, ou nas sedes de fazenda, né? Hoje já é mais difícil de você encontrar esse tipo de objeto nas propriedades na fazenda. Porém, tem aparecido nos últimos tempos postagens nas redes sociais, as pessoas compartilhando imagens de onças capturadas, né, ou mortas, como uma forma talvez antiga.
Who are we to say you should no longer exist in this world? We should be willing to adapt our lives to allow space for them to also coexist with us.
Conservation group Panthera runs a jaguar research base here in the Pantanal. It works with ranchers to make sure jaguars in this area aren't killed off or forced out of their range.
I hope for the jaguars in the future that exactly like in this place, that it is possible to have a coexistence even in cattle ranching areas. It is possible to coexist with them. Here in this area, we're showing how it can be done.
When I was growing up, I heard like so many stories about people killing jaguars to protect their cattle. At the time, I really thought they were doing the right things because they were actually protecting the cattle because that's the way to survive, like live in a farm. So everyone was really into killing jaguars.
Cattle ranchers settled in the Pantanal hundreds of years ago, and today about 95% of it is privately owned. Ranchers raise their livestock here, but the jaguars, pushed out of their habitat, see their cattle as prey.
In this case, what it creates is a vicious circle of cats eating cattle, cattlemen killing cats.
In the area, they only stopped killing a jaguar because there weren't many jaguars anymore because they killed so many.
For ranchers, feeding their families comes first. Any attempt to save jaguars has to respect that.
I think we have to see the perspective from the point of view of the cattlemen. The cattlemen are the ones suffering the consequences of coexisting with the cats, and they have not an easy life. Some of them are wealthy, many are not. We have to understand that the cattlemen are subject to the droughts, dry seasons, diseases, fires, changes in the prices of the cattle, lots of stuff.
Jaguars are one threat that some feel they can deal with. That's made these animals a target.
They don't want to conserve the jaguars here. They want to kill the jaguars because the jaguar preys on their cattle. They felt so proud about killing a jaguar, so you could be a real man.
If they have a cat that's consistently hitting their herd, so the normal policy they use is shoot, shovel, and shut up.
Panthera is brokering an uneasy truce between ranchers and jaguars. The conservation group helps locals find ways to live alongside a large carnivorous predator.
Of course, there are many cattlemen that deforest and they put forests down, etc., but not all of them. Many of them want to do the right things, and they are real stewards of the ranches that they have inherited and want to pass on to the next generations. For jaguars to survive, we have to work with the cattlemen, we have to understand them, and as a vet that has worked with cattle for 30 years, I am an advocate for the cattlemen. They are not the bad guys.
Panthera says its conservation efforts in the Porto Jofre region of the Pantanal are paying off. But it's hard to know exactly how many wild jaguars are left, partly because they're so tricky to study. And as Ricardo points out, this is one small slice of Brazil.
Tem alguns pontos, por exemplo, Porto Jofre, né? A impressão que se tem é que houve aumento da população de onças, que pode estar relacionado a uma série de questões envolvendo esse aumento da população de onça localmente nesse ponto. Porém, em outras áreas, em outros ambientes, em outros ecossistemas, né, em outros biomas brasileiros, a população vem caindo bastante.
Ailton remembers people killing jaguars here not so long ago.
And they would take the jaguar and take their coats and their heads and took it to the ranch just to show this is the animal was killing our cows. So and then people felt so proud of having the chance of seeing a dead jaguar.
Conservation isn't just about telling people to stop killing wild animals. It takes hard work and practical solutions on all sides.
Society wants the protection of the cats, but the one that's paying the bill is the cattleman.
Panthera is the only organization in the world focused solely on saving wild cats and their landscapes. Here, at Panthera's ranch in the Pantanal, locals can learn how to protect their cattle from jaguar attacks.
I come here very often at Panthera ranch, so just meet with the scientists so they can teach me how to avoid cattle predation, actually.
Keeping cattle in a protective enclosure at night when the jaguars are most active can help, as can electrified fences.
This is an example of it. So we are here in the corral. There's, cows here. The calves are in the enclosure. That's because the jaguars tend to attack the cattle at night.
Ranchers are breeding stronger cattle that can defend against jaguar attacks. We like to call them battle cattle. And they're placing big, tough water buffalo among the cows to keep predators at bay.
We use like electrical fences, for small herds of tame buffalo, many different things we're using.
As humans push further into the wilderness, jaguars are losing ground. So Panthera is preserving a jaguar corridor. It's a system of protected areas and private lands that links jaguar populations all the way from Mexico to Argentina, including in the Pantanal.
I think that agriculture will slowly displace cattle to the more marginal areas. So the conflict will be on the increase that will go on in all Latin America. It has been going on, it won't be stopped. So that's why it's important to have areas for conservation, corridors, and you have buffer areas. And in all those areas, we work together with the cattlemen to reduce the predation.
So I'm Allison Devlin. I am a PhD candidate and I'm studying Jaguar ecology here in the Pantanal. And I've been working with Jaguars since about 2008. Jaguars range from northern Mexico through northern Argentina. And over the past few years, 50 years, they've lost over 50% of their historic range.
Allison studies the health and habits of jaguar populations, both in captivity and in the wild. She's spent months at a time in the Pantanal.
I've worked in areas like the Tetons near Yellowstone National Park on a mountain lion project. I've worked in the jungles of Belize. The conditions working here are so different, something unique that I really haven't found anywhere else in the world.
The Pantanal region is the world's largest freshwater wetland. It's brimming with wildlife. The jaguar is at the top of the food chain and helps shape the ecosystem.
The jaguar is known as an apex predator, and they're a keystone species. So for the ecosystem to function, their presence indicates that the ecosystem is healthy enough for them to persist.
Allison conveys that message to ranchers and other members of the community that jaguars are an integral part of this environment.
Education helps people better understand why jaguars are valuable to the landscape. If we're able to show people that they have this amazing wildlife all around them and that they're part of this bigger system, then it's something that they can start to appreciate because they see it every day.
Tracking jaguars in the Pantanal is a challenge. Scientists like Allison use camera traps to record their movements. It gives them a sense of jaguar density and hope that the population in this area is bouncing back.
So using camera traps has been really useful for wildlife science. This video camera trap, it can record HD videos, and right now we're using this to hopefully get some nice jaguar behavior as they move through this really key area here. It's almost like a window into the lives of these animals for many years. And over time, you can look at what kind of species are still staying in that area.
They've even gotten to know some of these animals as individuals.
What becomes unique about jaguars is that they have these special spot patterns called rosettes, and they're unique to each individual. It's like a fingerprint. We've been able to look at the density, survival, how long they've been staying in an area.
Fumasa is a female that has shown up in the camera traps, I think some 5 or 6 years ago. We have registered her with cubs, with offspring, with different males when she's in heat.
Oh man, there's so much that I've learned from these camera traps. Not just the overall trends, but when we have something like a video camera trap, you can start to see real behaviors. You'll see the cats arrive and they'll look around, they'll get curious because the camera trap is something new, but it's not something stressful to them. And so they'll look at it, they'll sometimes lay in front of it. We've gotten images of jaguars mating in front of it, which is really rare to see. By measuring it, using camera traps like this, we can say, yeah, we're seeing a lot more jaguars in this area.
Scientists say it's hard to know exactly how many jaguars are left in the wild, even though certain populations are well studied. That's partly because these big cats are so elusive. In this region, Allison says, it looks like the jaguars are starting to bounce back. Conservation efforts are paying off.
People want to see this animal survive. And by protecting the jaguar, you're also protecting the prey species. You're also protecting the different plants that they need to survive.
Without ranchers' cattle to feast on, the idea is that jaguars return to their traditional prey. And they eat plenty of other species, from capybara to armadillo. But jaguar conservation isn't just about preserving the ecosystem. It's about the people who live here, too. Panthera operates a school on its ranch to benefit the local community.
And so now all these people who didn't know read and write, it has changed their lives. It has opened their horizons. And the message is you have all this thanks to jaguar conservation in the area.
Getting that message out is important. Jaguars are still under threat.
Tem alguns pontos a população parece que está recuperando, né? Mas, como eu estava falando, o país é muito grande, a distribuição dela é bastante ampla dentro do país, dentro desses biomas, né? E precisaria ter muito mais estudo para ter um quadro geral melhor da espécie para o Brasil.
It's so interesting and it's so complex, but to get long-term studies like that, you can see the importance of having an apex predator around. Overall, I do see a lot of hope for keeping the jaguar alive. What we've seen here so far is that the population size is increasing due to being in a really great place. We have a state park, and we also have 2 ranches that don't hunt jaguars. This is an example of a story that humans and jaguars can coexist.
My grandfather used to kill like so many jaguars in the area. My father never wanted to see like people stabbing, like killing, slaughtering the cows. He taught me to be nice to the animals, so I'm a bit different from my grandfather.
Ailton grew up on a ranch in the Pontanal. Now he runs an ecotourism lodge called the Pontanal Jaguar Camp and takes visitors out on his boat.
This place is so beautiful. It attracts so many people to come here. So it's really good and helps to protect the Pontanal.
Tourists typically come here for the fishing and bird watching. Today, jaguar safaris are growing in popularity.
The jaguars are very valued here because they bring a lot of tourists in. They are easily seen along the river shores in all this area. This area where we are working is fantastic because we have developed a truce between jaguars and people.
Tourists might spend thousands of dollars per person on an ecotour in the Pontanal. The vast majority come from North America and Europe.
Ecotourism is something that's actually helping to save the Pontanal because people start giving more value to the nature. But when you get too many people in one area, it has to be controlled.
Ecotourism has risks. For one thing, if people feed the jaguars, it could make them dangerously used to humans. It's up to guides, like Ailton, to make sure visitors obey the rules. Otherwise, tourists could put themselves and the cats in danger.
Então tem a distância mínima, o número de barcos, e uma série de regras para tanto preservar a seguridade do animal como do turista que está fazendo a observação. Porém, assim, não existe uma fiscalização, não tem, assim, o próprio governo do estado não tem recurso para fazer esse tipo de fiscalização, que é bastante complicado. Então fica mais a cargo mesmo dos operadores, né? Os operadores e os guias, né? Os pilotos, eles estão imbuídos de tentar seguir essas regras.
Jaguars are bringing new money to the region. It's another reason for locals to protect them.
Some of them told me that they make more money with the jaguars, so tourism is bringing more profit than cattle.
So a lot of the ranchers, they don't kill jaguars for fun. They only kill jaguars to protect their livestock.
Ecotourism is still new here. It will take time to understand how this industry is reshaping the region. And it's still small with room to grow. Less than 10% of local ranchers are involved.
In general, now the local communities like to have jaguars because it changed their lives. They have access to education through the school we have founded, and the whole economical situation of the whole community has changed thanks to jaguars.
I think the jaguar was the iconic things here that brought so many eco-travelers to this place. So the jaguar works more alive than dead.
Então, se vocês querem manter o que a gente fala, a galinha dos ovos de ouro, que é essa atividade que está trazendo bastante recurso para essas operadoras e para as pessoas que estão envolvidas com a atividade de observação de onças, vocês têm que manter uma certa ordem nisso, vocês têm que seguir as regras para que não acabem espantando as onças desses locais.